A fiery warning, Trump's stark message to the Middle East. Former President Donald Trump issued a stark warning, his words echoing across the already volatile Middle East. His message was clear and unambiguous, leaving little room for misinterpretation. "It will be hell," he declared, referring to the potential consequences if Hamas does not release the hostages taken during their brutal attack on Israel. The gravity of his words was palpable, resonating deeply with both allies and adversaries. The statement, delivered with Trump's signature bluntness, sent shockwaves through the region. It was a reminder of his unyielding stance on terrorism and his commitment to protecting American interests abroad. It was a clear signal of his unwavering support for Israel and a chilling reminder of his administration's aggressive foreign policy. His words were not just a warning to Hamas, but a reassurance to Israel of continued support. Trump's words carried weight even though he was no longer in the Oval Office. His influence on the global stage remained significant, and his statements continued to shape international discourse. His influence within the Republican Party remained strong, and his pronouncements on the world stage still commanded attention. Many within his party echoed his sentiments, amplifying the impact of his message. The message was unmistakable. The stakes were higher than ever, and the potential for a catastrophic escalation was real. The region, already a powder keg, seemed poised for further conflict. The world watched with bated breath, wondering how Hamas would respond and what the implications would be for the already fragile peace in the region. The uncertainty added to the tension, making the situation even more precarious. The timing of Trump's statement was particularly noteworthy. It came at a moment when the Middle East was already on edge, with various factions vying for power and influence. It came amidst heightened tensions in the Middle East, with Israel on high alert and the possibility of a wider conflict looming. The region was a tinderbox, and Trump's words were like a match. His words seemed to embolden hardliners on both sides, potentially pushing the region closer to the brink. The rhetoric from both camps grew more heated, and the prospect of peace seemed to slip further away. Some analysts saw it as a reckless provocation, while others interpreted it as a calculated move to pressure Hamas and shore up support for Israel. The debate over his intentions raged on, adding another layer of complexity to the situation. Whatever the intention, Trump's fiery rhetoric had ignited a firestorm. The region was now more volatile than ever, and the potential for violence loomed large. The Middle East was once again teetering on the edge of chaos, and the world held its breath, uncertain of what the future held. The stakes had never been higher, and the potential for disaster was all too real. The situation was a stark reminder of the region's volatility and the precarious nature of peace in a land scarred by decades of conflict. The echoes of past wars and unresolved tensions were ever present. As the world grappled with the implications of Trump's words, one thing was clear. The Middle East was at a crossroads, and the path forward was fraught with danger. The choices made in the coming days and weeks would shape the future of the region for years to come. Netanyahu's swift response, a show of force and unity? Benjamin Netanyahu, the embattled Prime Minister of Israel, wasted no time in responding to Trump's statement. His government, already facing intense scrutiny over its handling of the hostage crisis, issued a series of strongly worded statements, reiterating its commitment to securing the release of its citizens. Netanyahu, known for his hawkish stance, vowed to take whatever action was necessary, raising the specter of a full-scale military operation in Gaza. The Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, were placed on high alert, with troops massing along the border with Gaza. Airstrikes continued to pound targets within the densely populated enclave, drawing condemnation from international organizations and raising concerns about civilian casualties. Netanyahu, however, remained defiant, insisting that Israel would not be deterred in its mission to bring its people home. The speed and forcefulness of Netanyahu's response were seen by some as a desperate attempt to project strength and unity in the face of mounting domestic pressure. The hostage crisis had exposed deep divisions within Israeli society, with many questioning the government's preparedness and its strategy for dealing with Hamas. Netanyahu, facing calls to resign from some quarters, was under immense pressure to deliver results. The situation was further complicated by the complex political landscape in Israel. Netanyahu's coalition government, already fragile, was showing signs of strain. His right-wing allies were pushing for a more aggressive response, while more moderate voices urged restraint. The prime minister was caught in a delicate balancing act, trying to appease his coalition partners while also addressing the concerns of the international community. A shift in dynamics, Trump's direct line to Gantz. In a move that raised eyebrows in Washington and Tel Aviv, Donald Trump revealed that he had spoken directly with Benny Gantz, the Israeli defense minister, about the hostage situation. This unexpected communication came at a time when tensions were already high and the stakes couldn't be greater. The direct line of communication between Trump and Gantz was not just a simple phone call, it was a significant political maneuver that had the potential to alter the course of events. This bypass of Prime Minister Netanyahu, a longtime ally of Trump's, sent shockwaves through the Israeli political establishment. Netanyahu, who has been a dominant figure in Israeli politics for years, found himself sidelined in a critical moment. The Israeli political landscape, already fraught with tension, was further complicated by this unexpected move. It signaled a potential shift in dynamics, with Trump seemingly choosing to engage directly with the man in charge of Israel's military operations. This decision raised questions about the future of U.S. Israel relations and the role of military leaders in diplomatic discussions. Was this a one-time occurrence, or did it indicate a new approach to international diplomacy? The content of the conversation between Trump and Gantz remained shrouded in secrecy. Speculation ran rampant, with analysts and political commentators trying to piece together the implications of their discussion. What was said, and what agreements, if any, were made. The lack of transparency only added to the intrigue and uncertainty. However, the very fact that it took place, and that Trump chose to publicize it, spoke volumes. It was a clear message to both domestic and international audiences that Trump was still a key player on the global stage. The publicity surrounding the call suggested that Trump wanted to be seen as actively involved in resolving international crises, even from outside the White House. It suggested a level of distrust or dissatisfaction with Netanyahu's handling of the crisis. Trump's decision to bypass Netanyahu could be interpreted as a vote of no confidence in the prime minister's leadership. This move had the potential to weaken Netanyahu's position both domestically and internationally. Some speculated that Trump, known for his impulsive nature, might be seeking to insert himself into the situation, potentially undermining Netanyahu's authority. This kind of direct intervention was characteristic of Trump's unconventional approach to politics and diplomacy. It raised questions about the stability and predictability of U.S. foreign policy under his influence. The implications of this direct line of communication were far-reaching. It wasn't just about the immediate crisis, it had the potential to reshape the broader geopolitical landscape. How would other nations perceive this move? Would it embolden other leaders to bypass traditional diplomatic channels in favor of more direct and potentially more volatile interactions? It raised questions about the future of the U.S.-Israel relationship, particularly if Trump were to return to the White House. Would this direct line of communication become a new norm? How would it affect the balance of power within the Israeli government and its relationship with the United States? Would he continue to favor direct engagement with military leaders over diplomatic channels? This approach could have significant implications for how international crises are managed and resolved. It could lead to a more militarized form of diplomacy, where military leaders play a more prominent role in shaping foreign policy. Would this embolden hardliners within the Israeli government and make a peaceful resolution to the conflict more difficult to achieve? The direct line of communication between Trump and Gantz could be seen as a signal of support for more aggressive military actions, potentially undermining efforts to achieve a peaceful resolution. The situation also highlighted the delicate balance of power within the Israeli government. Netanyahu and Gantz, despite their differences, had to navigate a complex political landscape where alliances and rivalries could shift rapidly. The direct communication with Trump added another layer of complexity to an already volatile situation. Netanyahu, despite his reputation as a strongman, was clearly not calling all the shots. The fact that Gantz, a military leader, was able to engage directly with Trump suggested that there were other influential players in the Israeli political arena. This dynamic could lead to further power struggles and shifts within the government. The fact that Gantz, a member of the opposition, was able to have a direct line to a former U.S. president underscored the complexities of Israeli politics and the potential for internal divisions to be exploited. This situation revealed the intricate and often contentious nature of political relationships within Israel and how external influences could exacerbate these tensions. The Sarah Factor media portrayals and political influence. Adding another layer of intrigue to the already volatile situation were the media portrayals of Sarah Netanyahu, the Prime Minister's wife. Her presence in the public eye was not just a backdrop, but a focal point that drew significant attention. Known for her glamorous lifestyle and alleged influence over her husband, Sarah Netanyahu had long been a controversial figure in Israeli politics. Her appearances at high-profile events and her luxurious way of living often made headlines, adding to her notoriety. In the midst of the hostage crisis, she became a lightning rod for criticism, with some accusing her of being out of touch and insensitive to the plight of the hostages and their families. The media coverage intensified, scrutinizing her every move and amplifying public discontent. Photographs of Sarah Netanyahu attending social events, seemingly unconcerned with the national crisis, circulated widely on social media, sparking outrage and accusations of callousness. These images were shared and commented on extensively, fueling a narrative of detachment and indifference. Her critics, both within Israel and internationally, seized on these images as evidence of the Netanyahu government's disconnect from the suffering of its people. The portrayal of Sarah Netanyahu became a symbol of broader governmental failings, magnifying the public's frustration. The Sarah factor, as it became known, added fuel to the fire of public anger and further eroded trust in the government. The media's relentless focus on her actions and demeanor only served to heighten the sense of crisis and disillusionment among the populace. The media's focus on Sarah Netanyahu, while perhaps understandable given her high profile and controversial past, risked overshadowing the more pressing issues at hand. The intense scrutiny on her personal life diverted attention from the critical political and humanitarian challenges facing the nation. The hostage crisis, with its potential for regional escalation and humanitarian catastrophe, demanded serious attention and a nuanced understanding of the complex factors at play. Yet, the media's preoccupation with Sarah Netanyahu's role often blurred the focus on these urgent matters. The obsession with the personal life of a politician's spouse, however sensationalized, threatened to distract from the real story. The media's narrative risked reducing a multifaceted crisis to a series of personal dramas. Furthermore, the portrayal of Sarah Netanyahu as a Lady Macbeth figure, wielding undue influence over her husband, played into sexist stereotypes about women in power. This narrative not only undermined her but also perpetuated harmful gender biases. While it was fair to scrutinize the actions and decisions of any public figure, it was important to do so based on evidence and without resorting to gendered tropes. The media's approach often blurred the line between legitimate critique and sensationalism. The focus on Sarah Netanyahu's alleged influence risked perpetuating harmful narratives about women in politics and undermining the seriousness of the situation. It was crucial to maintain a balanced perspective, ensuring that the real issues were not overshadowed by personal controversies.